Did we need Ethan? Did we need Ethan? We did it. I don't think so. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bree with an E, and for today's video, we're going to be discussing Never Have I Ever, the final season. When it came out in 2020, a disaster year. This was like the first show I'd seen that was mainstream and on Netflix that showcased a lot of people of color. We had our main character being Indian, we had other characters being Black and Asian, and so the main cast was just so beautifully diverse, and it was just so refreshing to see an Indian female lead. Also, this was kind of one of the first shows, in my opinion, that did a good job as well representing a teenager, like what they actually look like. All of the cast except for Paxton. But so yeah, I just want to mainly say I'm so sad that the show is ending after 4 seasons. It's had a good run, honestly, especially it having a final season and having the opportunity to wrap up the storyline. At least we got that. But so for today's video, I wanted to talk about my final thoughts and reactions to this final season of Never Have I Ever. And if you've seen any of my TV show reviews before, we basically talk about everything that I loved and everything I not hated, but more so disliked about the series. But before we get into all of that, please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, as it helps so much with the algorithm and making sure people find this video as well as my channel. Also, if you want to see more of me and more content like this, subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you can be notified every time I post. But with that being said, let's get into the video. In the past seasons of Never Have I Ever, we've known Davey to be this main character who is very chaotically impulsive, throws these huge rage fits, and basically just finds a way to hurt and harm others around her. Now in the season, while she didn't have it all together completely 100% of the time, I felt like in this final season we saw Davey actually mature. We saw some actual growth and development in this girl. We saw her making right by her friends when they had disagreements or arguments. We saw her apologizing and accepting situations that weren't so ideal, and kind of actually utilizing her therapy for the first time. We just saw in this final season her accept some uncomfortable truths about herself and really be able to mature and grow and develop into the young woman we saw her to be at the end of this season. But truly in this final season, we saw Davey transition from being the unlikable nerd to being a more mature, self-aware young woman. Another thing I enjoyed about this final season was a little bit surprising, but it was actually Paxton's final storyline. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit confused as to why Paxton was even in season 4. He had just graduated high school and I didn't know exactly how they were going to fit him into the final season. When he started off the final season in college and then left college and went and returned to Sherman Oaks to work as a swim coach, I was not enjoying it. But as we got further and further into the series, and especially with Paxton's episode, he felt lost, a little bit discouraged, and not so sure with what he wanted to do with his life. So I was glad to see in this final season that Paxton kind of figured himself out and at least what he wanted for his future. Another thing I really enjoyed about this season was that we finally got to see Davey's mom open her heart up to love. In the past season, she did have this little fling, but ultimately it was just bad timing. She was not in the best place and wasn't ready to be in another relationship after losing Rohan. Also, with everything that was going on with Davey in season 3, it wasn't a great time for her to find herself in a relationship. But in season 4, with Davey being less chaotic and just overall her being in a better state, a better mental state, I was so glad to finally see her let someone in. I think that's another thing I loved about the show, is that the show talked about and touched on a number of deeper topics outside of the kind of teen romance drama. We got really important scenes of Davey grieving the loss of her very recent father, her being in therapy, her mother adjusting to being a single mother and parent for the first time. All of these aspects outside of the traditional romance drama really gave us unexpected emotional scenes and moments. But while I loved a lot of things in this final season, there were also some things I disliked or thought we could do without. First thing I disliked about this final season was the whole introduction of the Ethan character. In the past seasons of the show, we always had at least Paxton and Ben who were love interests for Davey, but in season 3 we're also introduced to Des. And so in season 4 I definitely was not expecting or wanting another love interest for Davey. So this Ethan character, while I felt like, okay, maybe he was there, I've heard people say he was there for Davey's sexual awakening. But then again, did we need Ethan to do that for her? Did we need Ethan? Did we need Ethan? We did it. I don't think so. It just felt like so 2 seasons ago, so last season. I thought it felt very distracting in season 4, especially given the fact that after she breaks up with Ethan, we see Ethan no longer. Quite frankly, our time was wasted with those few episodes that they dated. Another thing I disliked about this season was the lack of relevancy for each of the side characters. They truly didn't have a lot going on compared to past seasons. And while I know that Never Have I Ever has so many side characters that it's almost impossible to have each one be relevant at all times throughout the series, compared to last season and prior seasons, this season was just boring for them. They had nothing going on. Apart from the storylines of where each character was going to go after high school or life beyond high school, there was just these very stiff, boring, and pointless storylines, in my opinion. I just feel like mainly coming from season 3, where we had so many intricate storylines for each of the side characters, this season fell flat for me. There just wasn't a lot going on for them. And Nisa was quite literally robbed this season. I'm sure when she read the script, she was in awe. She was in shock. She should have returned the script immediately. Lastly, another thing I didn't like was the fact that Ben and Davey only got together in the last moments of the last episode. The end of season 3, quite frankly, should have been the start of Davey and Ben's relationship, but after the whole misunderstanding and the petty drama between Ben's new girlfriend Margot and Davey, it was just too long and drawn out, and it prolonged them being together. It was unnecessary. To any of you guys out there who think Paxton and Davey should have been in game, were we watching the same show? Me personally, I felt like Ben has always been the obvious choice. I always felt like Paxton was kind of Davey's hot hookup, one-time hookup. I never thought that they would actually even make them be together, so imagine my surprise that they lasted as long as they did. But Ben and Davey supremacy over here. That's gonna do it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review and my final thoughts of season 4 of Never Have I Ever. How did you feel about this final season? Are you sad that the show is ending? I'm sad. But let me know some things that you loved about this final season, or this series as a whole, or the things that you disliked. Just let me know. And if you made it to this point, I love you so much, and you should literally subscribe. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!